Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about dynasty moves to make post-free agency. Joe and I have 3 moves that we're suggesting you go ahead and make.
Hike!
Joe, why don't you start us off? What do you have as your first move to make?
Yeah, my first move to make here, I'm going to go with you should trade for wide receiver Darnell Mooney, who's 26 years old, signed a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons. 26 of that is fully guaranteed. And, this is a significant investment for the Falcons to make. And, they just really think that they can unlock his potential and kind of to what we saw him do in 2021 when he had over 1,000-yard season on 81 receptions. And I think there's definitely potential for that. He's going to upgrade a quarterback with Kirk Cousins. He's going to be the clear-cut number 2 wide receiver in this Atlanta Falcons offense. And, let's be honest, Justin Fields just was not able to throw the deep ball to him last year, especially watching some of those games, just overthrowing them, throwing balls out of bounds, just not catchable. So, Kirk Cousins will definitely be able to throw the deep ball to him. And, with Robinson coming over, their offensive coordinator coming over from the Rams system, he's another Sean McVay disciple here, just like Kevin O'Connell was in Minnesota. So this honestly should be a pretty seamless transition for Kirk Cousins.
So right now, looking at our friends over at Draft Sharks and their Dynasty trade value chart, you're looking at Darnell Mooney for a 3rd-round pick. You make that deal?
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay. How about some other free agent receivers? I want to see get a gauge of what you're thinking about. Would you rather have Darnell Mooney or Curtis Samuel?
That's interesting. I'll take Darnell Mooney.
Okay. Darnell Mooney or Mike Williams over in the Big Apple?
Oh, you know how I feel about that. I'll go Mooney over Williams.
I knew that one. How about Darnell Mooney or Gabe Davis over in Jacksonville?
That's interesting. I think I might go with Darnell Mooney on that one as well.
Okay.
That's tough though, just because Gabe Davis, we saw it in spurts, and he had a good quarterback with Josh Allen, and he was the number 2 option in the Bills offense, but just would come and go too often. And Trevor Lawrence, I'm not really sure how to feel about him, thus far in his career. Obviously, he had a good rapport with Christian Kirk, but that's kind of yet to be seen. So I think I like the versatility in Mooney's game. He's got the speed. He's a good route runner. So I like his upside a little more.
So one thing I'm trying to figure out is when it comes to Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, if he's going to follow a similar offensive philosophy that McVay does with the motion, he uses a ton of motion with Puka and Cooper Kupp. I don't personally think that London would be the guy that they would use in a lot of motion. So Who is that going to be? Is it going to be Rondale Moore, who's kind of a smaller gadget guy? Is it going to be Kyle Pitts? You don't normally see that from a tight end. So I think it could be Mooney. And you saw how, in my view, and I'm not saying that they're not the same player, but I'm just saying I feel like Puka he really took advantage of that, of the amount of motion that he created. And I think that it allowed for a lot of opportunities for him to be created. So I think of the receivers they have in that team, Mooney, who is the most shiftiest, he might make the most sense, which kind of supports your argument for him.
Yeah. I just like, we've seen a flash of his production. I don't know why, 2021 he had a big year and then just hadn't been able to get close to that. And his utilization wasn't even close to that in the following couple of years after that. So I really don't know what happened in Chicago, but I think a new change of scenery, major upgrade at quarterback with Kirk Cousins, and I think he's a good buy right now.
Well, it's an indictment on Justin Fields as a quarterback, but that's another story for another day.
It's just interesting because Fields did so well with DJ Moore, but when it came to those big deep shots down the field to Mooney, they could not connect.
So I'm going to talk about a guy that I think you should go ahead and try to trade for and buy. It's going to be wide receiver Marvin Mims of your Denver Broncos, Joe. Jerry Jeudy is no longer with the Broncos, and I think the fan base is saying good riddance to him. Well, 87 targets are now vacated from that offense. He had the most amount of yards the Broncos. Oh, sorry, second most. Sutton was the first. Very close, though. 758 receiving yards for Jerry Jeudy. Mims, though, he had a 17.1 average. Guy is really able to create a lot of separation, and he can really catch the deep ball. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be, and I think a lot of people will be scared because right now it's Jarrett Stidham. Now, they may hold out to see if the Broncos get a quarterback, but I think they might be out of the quarterback sweepstakes or maybe left holding the bag for Bo Nix because I don't know if they're going to get up there and go get one of these top guys. And so to me, I like Mims a lot. I think he's under the radar guy. I think not enough people are talking about him. And I would say go ahead and go get him, Joe.
Yeah, I agree. I'd be going to get Marvin Mims as well. I don't really – it might be tough for somebody to hear that, but I don't necessarily care who the quarterback is going to be. All I know is the quarterback that the Broncos have, whether it's Bo Nix or, some other rookie that they're able to get in this draft class. Like Sean Payton's not going to go with the quarterback that he doesn't believe in, or if they do pick a rookie, it's going to be a quarterback that he loves. And I think if they get a quarterback in the draft, they're going to be aggressive and move up to get somebody that he loves. They're not trading back and just settling for one, just for, a random quarterback. He's going to fit, the quarterback's going to fit his system, do what he wants to do. Russell Wilson didn't do anything that Sean Payton really likes in the quarterback. He tried to make it work. The stats for Russell Wilson look good, but he takes way too many sacks, wants a quick processor. And I really think this Broncos offense, honestly, no matter who's at quarterback, will look a lot different.
Now, based on the trade value chart, he would be an early second. I think I'd rather have the early second, to be honest with you. But as far as some of the other players that are out there, I would rather have Marvin Mims over the likes of Cortland Sutton, Quentin Johnston, Jamison Williams, Christian Watson, Josh Downs, Jacoby Myers, Gabe Davis. I'd rather have Mims compared to all those guys because I think Mims has a lot of potential. I like looking for the ceiling. If I strike out, I strike out. But, we're not playing for second place here, Joe. We're playing for first.
Yeah, I like I like him over those guys you mentioned as well, just because he's going to get a massive opportunity as well. I mean, you already heard Sean Payton say that Jeudy was basically blocking Marvin Mims, from Sean Payton being able to utilize him and get him the ball more. Well, that block is now gone. And I think, Broncos really haven't done much with that wide receiver room. Cortland Sutton's going to be there. They get Tim Patrick back as long as he can stay healthy. But Marvin Mims is going to be that slot guy for sure, and they're going to figure out how to get this guy in the field a lot more and really utilize him.
I wouldn't be shocked if Sutton is no longer on the team here during the draft either.
Yeah, I think that could happen.
It's not. It seems likely he's going to stay, but I don't think the door's shut that he could be on the way out, possibly in the draft trade.
Yeah, well, I think if the Broncos are going to move up, which Sean Payton said today, that's a realistic move despite the reports saying it was going to be not realistic. I think Sutton and maybe like Surtain and Picks is going to have to be in the conversation for them to possibly pull something off.
All right, Joseph, who do you got for your next move?
Yeah, my next one's going to surprise you, Steve. Then I'm going to this guy. But my next move is trade for or buy Bryce Young.
Wait, what? What did you say? Hold on, what?
Yeah. I'm suggesting that you buy Bryce Young, Steve. I think you should be able to get him at a decent price. He was really disappointing, last year as a rookie, and especially for where guys had a draft and get Bryce Young. I mean, in our league, he was the number one pick, and I'm sure in a lot of other dynasty leagues, he was the number one pick. And then he disappointed. I think you have a lot of disgruntled owners that, he just didn't pan out, didn't look great. But the Panthers spent significant money on two guards to beef up the O-line and really help the interior offensive line and really should help form a pocket for Bryce Young to be able to, step up into and throw. That was part of the problem. Offensive line was terrible, and he didn't have many weapons. Well, they went out and acquired Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. And say what you want about him, Steve, but Deontay Johnson is a great route runner and simply knows how to get open. And he's a significant.
And he knows how to drop the ball, too.
His drops, man, I really feel like they've been going down lately, and he's been a little more sure-handed. I know that was an issue early on, but I trust he can catch the ball and hang on to it. But regardless, it's a significant upgrade to this wide receiver room, who was led by, the old man Adam Thielen, who people didn't think he had much left to play for and performed pretty well. And then, you get Canales as the coach coming over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was able to get the best out of Baker Mayfield last year. We've seen him do pretty well with Russell Wilson, who not every coordinator has been able to do that with Russell Wilson. And I really feel like, he should be able to find ways for Bryce Young to succeed this year, even though, I do still have some concerns about his size and durability for Bryce Young, but I think he's a good buy for Dynasty.
I was just going to say, what happened to his frame? He didn't just decide to get muscular overnight.
No, that's why I had to throw that in there, Steve. I get there's still the concerns been there, but all these you saw all the quarterbacks last year just getting hurt, and I think for the price that you can acquire, Bryce Young, I think he's going to be a lot better. And even if you're going to have multiple quarterbacks on your team, I think you could do a lot worse than Bryce Young.
All right, I'm going to have you put your money where your mouth is. So, of the quarterbacks with the last draft class and this draft class, from a dynasty perspective, give me the top 5. Is Bryce Young in the top 5?
Is Bryce Young in the top 5? I think he could be. I think the potential.
Because you would have Jaden Daniels in there, you'd have C.J. Stroud in there, right? So then you've got 3 left. So you've got Bryce Young, you got Will Levis, you've got J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Will Levis in the top 5. I'd rather have Bryce Young. And then, so from a dynasty perspective, I really like J.J.
Richardson. Richardson's going to be in that top 5.
Richardson's going to be in the top 5 for sure.
So you got 2 left. So you got McCarthy, Drake May, and Bryce.
McCarthy, Drake May, and Bryce. I think in that case, McCarthy would be the odd man out for fantasy. I think NFL quarterback-wise, McCarthy is going to be up there and be a great NFL quarterback. I just don't know for fantasy if he's going to be that guy for you, because I think teams could just take advantage of the fact that in college he wasn't asked to do a lot. That he could be paired up with a good running game. Even though I think he's capable of more, I just think maybe he's not going to be the best fantasy quarterback.
So Drake May or Young?
I'd give the advantage to Bryce Young because I think Drake May is going to need some time.
Did you get hit upside the head? What happened to you? You hated Bryce Young.
Well, I hate Bryce Young as an NFL quarterback, but in terms of fantasy, I think he could be all right. And part of the problem was he didn't have any weapons to throw to. They got DeAndre Johnson. He had a really bad offensive line last year. They've made upgrades there. And then I told you I didn't like Frank Reich and that coaching staff. And now they got Canales, and I think maybe they turned things around.
Well, good for you for turning around the ship.
Yeah, like I said, my concerns for his size and durability are all there, even though he made it out clean last year, his rookie year, but that was behind a really bad offensive line.
Yeah, I was very high on the guy. His rookie season, honestly, it could have been worse, but it couldn't have been that much worse. It was pretty bad.
Right. Yeah,
the eye test was pretty poor, but I do like Canales a lot. I'm with you on that, and I do believe in the player. But if he doesn't it's a do or die season for him though this year.
Yeah, I think part of the problem too last year was just all the hype surrounding Bryce Young and the cost that you're going to have to get him. I think that's also why I was really out on him. But this year with the disappointment and maybe people don't feel as encouraged as me about his new situation, maybe you can have an opportunity to buy him low.
So the next move I'm going to suggest you make is go ahead and acquire Jahan Dotson. That's Jahan Dotson, a guy you and I were both really excited about, Joe, just never really panned out. That Commanders offense was sort of stale, and now you just saw Curtis Samuel lead that offense, 91 vacated targets on the way out. He had 83 targets, 518 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think, when it comes to receivers, it really depends a lot on the quarterback play. We don't know yet who the quarterback is going to be, so it's time will tell on that. But, some will just say, well, it's going to be Terry McLaurin. You don't know how that quarterback is going to perform and what his rapport is going to be with his weapons. So to me, Dotson's shown a lot of talent. He's been great in the red zone. It's a completely different offense now with a new coaching staff. I'm intrigued by this guy, and I think you can get him for peanuts.
Yeah, you probably can get him for peanuts. I really thought last year was going to be a breakout year for him. As we saw, talked about for a while, the sophomore breakout season that just didn't happen for him, and just for whatever reason, I just don't understand why he wasn't more of a focal point in the offense. They rather throw it to the tight end position, and Terry McLaurin got his, and then they were even using Curtis Samuel a lot. And I'm like, Curtis Samuel, but this guy Jahan Dotson's still a really young wide receiver, and depending on who they bring in for wide receiver competition, and their quarterback, I think he is a good buy. And he still has the same potential that he had coming into the prior season as well.
All right, Joe, what's your final move that you're suggesting those listening should make?
Yeah, my final move to make is go ahead and acquire running back Antonio Gibson.
The
other guy we were high on, Steve, he's 25 years old. Patriots signed him on a 3-year deal. 3 years, $11.25 million, 5.3 dollars guaranteed. And, listen, Gibson just didn't get the opportunities last year in Washington for whatever reason, despite all the rumors saying they were going to utilize him, line him up as wide receiver. Got us all really excited. Figuring out how to utilize this guy in multiple ways just didn't even happen. But Gibson was the number 2 running back in yards per touch with 5.1 yards per touch. And comparatively, Ramondre Stevenson last year had 3.2 yards per touch last year. So Gibson's bringing a whole new explosiveness to this offense for the Patriots that really lack explosive plays and really lack the players to give them, those big explosive plays that a lot of other offenses in the NFL have. And I think Gibson's got a chance to see a lot more touches and have a larger role with the Patriots than he did with the Commanders. Ramondre Stevenson struggles to stay on the field. He gets injured a lot. Saw it again last year. Saw Ezekiel Elliott come in and play pretty well and was fantasy relevant. And Gibson's a lot younger than him and has a lot more juice. And not to mention just the ineffectiveness and the inefficient runner that Ramondre Stevenson was. I like the upside that Antonio Gibson brings, and I feel like his receiving abilities can bring, possibly that James White, Deion Lewis role back to New England.
Well, with Jacoby Brissett right now as a quarterback, you would think that they're going to draft a quarterback, but even if they do, they say Drake May is very developmental. They would want him to kind of take some time. Is it going to possibly be a Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy? Tough to know. I think Gerard Mayo is going to rely a lot on the run. So I do think that people are thinking for a big year for Ramondre. I think that Antonio Gibson could break some hearts. I'm a little bit nervous about that backfield. I see the potential, but it makes me kind of scary. So I can see what you mean, because right now the value for Gibson is absolutely zero.
Yeah, he had such a disappointing year last year. I feel like people have really soured on him. I feel like he was kind of a forgotten signing or forgotten name in free agency as well. So I feel like for the price you can acquire him, I think he's got a lot of upside and still some potential, being that he'll be 26 by the time this season rolls around. I think there's a lot of value that he can bring, and it's not going to cost you a lot.
So my last move that I'm going to recommend you make here, and this one I've been waffling with, and I'm an owner of this player, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But I'm going to tell you to go ahead and buy Jackson Smith-Njigba, guy who I traded for prior to all this happening in the offseason. I traded him and acquired him for a late first-round pick and an early second, which right now kind of looks like a lot. But if you look at it, even in his year where he had contested opportunities with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, he still finished with 93 targets, 628 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Showed a lot of flashes towards the end of the year. And I was kind of concerned when you look at the Tyler Lockett. I saw the Tyler Lockett extension. I was like, oh boy, like this. I was like, should I get rid of this guy? Because now Lockett, I was hoping the Lockett would be gone. Now this is his opportunity. But when you look at the Lockett extension, it's a 2-year extension. But next year he'll be 33 years old with a $30.8 million cap hit. And if the Seahawks cut him, it would cost him $4 million. So you know what that means? Tyler Lockett will not be on this team next year. Mark my words, he will not be there. So, and even after that, DK Metcalf only has 1 year left remaining as well. He'll be coming up on, I think he'll be 28 by the time this contract expires. So they're going to have to do something. So Smith and Jake was the future. And you could say, well, I'd rather have Roma Dunze or I'd rather have Malik Neighbors. And honestly, I wouldn't fault you for that logic, but we don't know where they're going. Would you rather have Malik Neighbors on the Patriots? Yeah, that doesn't really excite me very much. Do you want Roma Dunze on the Giants with Daniel Jones at quarterback? Landing spot matters a bunch, and the reason why Jackson Smith and Jigba wasn't drafted as early in rookie drafts this past season was because of the not so great landing spot. I just think that he showed enough in his rookie year. You got to ride high, and I think for an owner like myself who has Smith and Jigba, after the Lockett extension and everything going on, I thought maybe I should trade him. So I think you got to have conversations. The price could be sky high, and then don't do it. But I think he's an interesting player to have negotiations and discussions on, because there's going to be some who really buy into the player, and there's going to be some who are concerned this guy may never see the light of day.
Yeah, I don't think the price for him would be sky high. I think people are going to be nervous about JSN. I know I would be.
That's what I think too, and that's the incident, because if you look at the draft trade chart over here, Dynasty trade chart, excuse me, he's actually kind of high. I was actually kind of surprised. So it's like, should I really say that you should be buying this guy? Because I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know if I was a JSN owner, man, I'd be nervous. I think I would still take, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., regardless of their landing spot. I just think they're potentially better wide receivers. But, even though Lockett might not be a factor after this year, I just still question about who the Seahawks quarterback is going to be. And maybe that is Sam Howell. I mean, that's they acquired him. It's definitely, Geno Smith is not in there for the long haul. So I guess, those other teams that you mentioned picking at the top of the draft, at least they could potentially have a chance to get one of their long-term future quarterbacks, where the Seahawks just don't have that luxury right now.
I mean, he's at right around the 109 value. And you've got guys like a little ahead of him, like Brian Thomas, Deebo Samuel, Tank Dell, Rashee Rice, Stephon Diggs. Below him, Christian Kirk, Jaden Reed, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans. So I don't know, but I'd be very, if nothing else, have the conversation with your league mate who has him, because like you said, I agree, he's going to be one of those ones that people are going to be really in on the guy, really nervous. I even have him, and I'm a little bit nervous, but I think that the talent is going to win out at the end of the day.
Yeah, that being said, I mean, I really thought he was the best wide receiver in that draft class last year, and he's still a really great route runner. I'm just more concerned, more than the Tyler Lockett thing, what their long-term solution is at quarterback, and will they be able to utilize him correctly?
Yep, and that's totally fair. There's no doubt about it. So that does it for our Dynasty moves to make post free agency. Hopefully you found this valuable. And if you enjoyed this content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We're this close to making the 500 subscribers. We couldn't thank you enough for showing support our way if you like the video. And we've got more coming this week and into the next week as we prepare for the NFL draft. I know it's one of those events every year that you and I look forward to, Joe. You're not going to want to miss what we have in store. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.